Good day, everybody. Happy Friday. Officially, today is the first day of summer, and it has been warm and feeling like summer here. I've heard that this weekend will be especially hot. I hope that you have all had a good week. I'm so happy that you are here with me today on June 20th. Chatting with you here and in the comments is something I really look forward to each week. Fair warning, today's video will be a bit longer than usual, and so will next week's video. So if you want to put some extra ice in your beverage and grab your yarn, I think this is going to be a good visit. About next week's video, tomorrow, Jeff and I are looking forward to visiting some yarn friends. The weather is calling for clear and sunny. I hope to have some pictures to share with you about all of that next Friday. We will be at a craft show, maybe finding a friend for Maxine, and later tomorrow afternoon visiting with a friend who crochets, collects yarn, and who has a beautiful hosta garden. Now, also next Friday, I will share a sneak peek of what will be happening here for Christmas in July. I'm really excited about some of the things that I have heard are underway at Diane and Judy's channels for Christmas in July too. The three of us have been getting ready. Maybe pop over to their channels to see what surprises they have planned next month. I think it's going to be so much fun. Today, I'm going to invite you into my office, which really isn't an office at all, and I think is the best place of all in our apartment. It is a corner of the dining room, so I'm very close to the refrigerator. Truth be told, it is the heart of the apartment. When my son and husband have their coffee breaks or lunch, it is in this space. So this is the best possible spot for me to have my cozy corner for crafting. Sort of like being right by the water cooler in a traditional office. I have a bit of a video to share a peek at where all the yarn with heart action happens. Good morning. This is Thursday morning, and I thought I would share a little bit about my workspace. I've had my cup of tea this morning, and this is what greets me in the morning when I come into my crochet area. This is a little spot in the dining room of our apartment. It's a folding desk. It's a folding table that I have. There's some of my works in progress. My little turtle, a little turtle on my mouse pad, a little turtle that's attached to what I use to videotape, and my ring light. Oh, there's Maxine and Miss Sassafras, the spot where I put my phone when I'm not chatting with you with it. There's some works in progress. That's where I put those. There we go. There's those. Now I'll pause for a second. I have a bit of a goal this year. Those shelves that you saw by my work table that have yarn at the moment, those shelves are where I would like to put my dining room dishes. That is a big part of why I am doing Stash Down 2025, to reclaim that space for the dining room. Slow but sure, I am making progress. Of course, the yarn on these dining room shelves is not all of my yarn. And the question for all of you, next week, would you like to see where and how I stash the rest of my yarn in an apartment? If you would like to email or comment, I would love to hear from you. This week, there are 2 finished items and a work in progress. Also, a couple of surprises. Of course, a reveal from all of you that is letting you know the locations where Yarn with Heart viewers were knitting and crocheting last weekend during the Crochet and Knit in Public Day. And also a second surprise. I have demonstrated in a video for one of the finished items where I show some hints and tips. Please let me know when you watch that demonstration if you have any suggestions to help me improve. I'm very new to making that kind of demonstration video. I'll start with the work in progress. This one is a blanket that I'm making for the Something New Make-Along. The yarns that I'm using remind me of birthdays, so that's the celebration that I chose yarn around. The yarn is Brava worsted, and I chose colors that are ombre pinks and some speckles. And when I put them together into this blanket, it reminds me of a 5-tier birthday cake. The colors are rouge, cherry speckle, cotton candy. This one that I'm working on right now is called rosebud speckle. And next week, I will be finishing the blanket with a layer of blush. This blanket is 30 inches wide and the finished size will be 40 inches long. I'm using a 6mm hook and the pattern is called Bev's 5-Day Lovee Blankee by Beverley A Qualheim, published in Bev's Country Cottage. It's available free on Ravelry. So there's how far I am so far. And I dropped my hook. The hook again is a 6mm crochet hook. Thank you so much for those who sent in their pictures for this Something New Make-Along so far. If you sent an email to me and have not received a reply, definitely try sending your email again. There have been a few times that emails have not arrived to me on the first try. Please email your make-along pictures to me by June 27th. That way I will have time to get the video ready. The slideshow will be on the first Tuesday of July, on July 1st. And now for completed items. Here is the one with the demonstration video. This week I was adding a border to a blanket made with squares, and I also needed to weave in the ends. First, let's grab our drinks and start with the video where I show tips about making pretty borders on blankets, and then I will show the finished blanket. Hi there, I'm going to try a tutorial. I'm not used to doing tutorials and my setup is not really great, but I'm going to try and show you a few tips about polished granny square borders in blankets, and these are some things that I do to try and make my borders look a bit prettier. The first thing is I do weave in all the ends on my squares. Then I join the squares in whatever method the pattern calls for or whatever method I prefer. And I weave in the ends that are on the center of the blanket. However, I like to wait and weave in all the remaining yarn, the ones that are on the edges of the blanket, until after the border is finished. If the yarn that I am using on the border is the same color as I used to join the squares. For the first round in the border, I usually use a single crochet round. This gives stability to the blanket. And at the ends where the joins have happened, I'm going to show you here. As I'm single crocheting here, there will be a spot where if I did a single crochet in the spot where this join happened, there would end up being a small valley in here. So what I'm going to do is wrap my yarn and go in here and actually put a half double crochet rather than a single crochet. Then continue on with the next stitch using a single crochet. And this will help to make this first row of the border be much smoother and not have that little valley in it. If this first row happens to be a half double crochet, then on this join section I will do probably an extended half double crochet or a double crochet. I will experiment to see which of those two look best. Now I'm going to continue on until I get to the corner, and then I will show you what I do in the corner of the blanket. So this is the blanket that I've been making using the Circle of Friends square by Veronika from Blue Star Crochet. And to join these squares, I used the mattress stitch join. Sometimes I use a slip stitch in the back loop to join the squares. Those are my two favorite joints for squares. So here we go. We're coming up to another one of those little spots where it would be a valley. Now I do want to explain why I leave these and these tails in this section. The reason being, when it comes time to join in these, I will have more area in this white color to be able to weave in these ends. And if I had just woven them in before I did the border, it might have gotten quite thick at this section to do to weave all of that yarn in. So that's why I wait until after I've done this border, because it is also in the white and it will give me more space, to more places to weave in these two tails. Now here we are, we're at the spot of the join again, so I'm going to wrap my yarn and poke it in there and make a half double crochet instead of the single crochet. And when I come to the next spot, I continue on with my single crochets. After I'm finished this row, sometimes I will do a second row of single crochets in the same fashion all the way around to add extra stability. That's if the yarn is very drapey and if I feel like I need an extra. And then I continue on with whatever border the pattern calls for, or whatever border that I prefer to add to the blanket. And after the entire border is complete, it is time to weave in all the yarn ends that are remaining and left over after joining all the squares and after completing the border. Now we're coming up to my final corner, and I'll show you what I decide to do when I get to a corner. Here we go, just a few more stitches here. This is my last one of the blanket, so it's a little different than some of the others, but it'll be obvious what to do in the other ones once you see this one. There we go, coming to the corner. Oops. There. What I like to do for all of my corners, I like to have a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet. This is where I started my blanket. It's got one single crochet already here, so I'm going to join there, and that way I've got a single crochet, a join 2, a single crochet, and in each of those chain 2s, I like to put a stitch marker, so that way it's easy to find them when I come around for my next round. On this one, I will do a second round of single crochet, so I did chain up 1 here, and I will start my second round with single crochets. And it will happen just exactly the same way as this first one has happened. If I want to make it extra fancy, here, I'll show you something different that I often like to do. There's my single crochet in there. Often what I like to do is go into this loop, which is called the back loop. See, there's 2 loops here. This is the front loop, this is the back loop, and I will put my single crochet in the back loop only, and that gives a pretty little edge on this next row. There we go. I hope that you enjoyed this. As I get to the corners, I'll do that single crochet, chain 2 single crochet again in each of the corners, and I'll follow either my preferred border or the pattern border for my next rows. Thanks so much for watching this, and enjoy the rest of the video. So this will be my submission for Judy's Creations in Crochet Butterfly of the Month. Here is a peek at the butterfly picture for June. I'll put it over here. The squares were designed by Veronika Cromwell from Blue Star Crochet. The pattern is called Circle of Friends Square. Here's a look at one of the squares. There. I did modify this square a little bit, and you can pop over to last week's video to see those changes that I made. There is a free version of this pattern on Veronika's website, and a paid version is available on Ravelry. For the border is my own design, and the border is a row of single crochets, then a row of single crochet in the back loop, then in blue a row of half double crochets, and the last row is a row of slip stitches in the third loop. And here is a look at that border. I hope it will show up well. There. And I'll show you the finished blanket here. There. This one will be a lapghan for donation. And oh, I used the same hook size for the border as I used for the rest of the blanket. It was a 5mm hook, and the yarn I used is left over after making the blanket, Lion Brand Pound of Love, and Ice Yarn Softly Baby. For anyone who's new to watching, if you would like to find any patterns mentioned in my videos and any of the creators who I mention, there's always information about how to find them in the description box below. Now for my second finished item, I crocheted a baby hat in a size to fit about a 2-year-old, and I'm making this to match the blanket that I made last week for the book cover of the month Make Along by Crochet with Nonna, Rosanna. Now I will show a picture of her book cover here, and again, if you wanted information about this blanket, you can pop over to last week's video. The yarn I used is left over from the blanket. It's King Cole Curiosity double knitting in the color Victoria Plum, which is color number 2905. For the hat, I used a 4.25mm hook. The pattern is called Sweet Little Hat by April Garwood from Banana Moon Studio. It is a paid pattern on Ravelry, and the pattern comes in sizes to fit from newborn to size 3 years. There. So now this one is a set that is prepared and ready to donate to Casting Off the Cold. Now, remembering that last weekend was Worldwide Knit or Crochet in Public Day, some of us brought our stitching into the wild. I have a list of where we were stitching and a couple of pictures. We were knitting and crocheting in the doctor's office, in an unplanned location where it could happen organically. Some people live in spots where it was just too hot and humid to venture out. Also, a few were knitting at local parks. Also at an indoor public location as the weather report called for rain and they had to do a plan B. Here is a picture of a person who was knitting at a Scottish festival, Highland Games. Also, someone was knitting on an outdoor bench. And finally, a picture of the project that I was working on, also on an outdoor bench. And now for a bit of a chat about the chapter title for this week. This week's title is Shining Our Light. To me, when we are doing things that we really enjoy, our lights automatically shine. There is no other option but joy, and others can see it. When we are in the zone where we are so focused on something and pour all of our creative energy into it, the whole afternoon disappears and all of a sudden it is supper time. That is our light shining. Other ways that I think this happens kind of automatically are helping someone else to learn as it illumines someone else's path. Or if we are not natural teachers, it happens by sharing pictures, emails, or comments about what we have made. Also by gifting or donating, or by wearing and using the finished object. That is definitely shining and sharing our light. At guitar, I never thought shining our light is often about doing things just because they interest us, approaching things as play and as fun, and knowing that we are not going to be good or experts at many things. It is okay. We shine at them in our non-expertness because we are interested in them, and we have fun sharing our challenges and successes with others. These are my insights after I thought about what Carrie wrote in this week's chapter about shining our light. Oh, and if you would ever want to find a copy of this book to read Carrie's perspective about these 30 ways to ignite creativity and the little spark, I typed a few places in the description box where you can find a copy if you would like. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here, for sharing in your comments and leaving your thumbs. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Enjoy your crochet, enjoy your knitting, and I hope to see you next video.